Welcome to the Slay Your Day Show with Avi Vatsa. All right, welcome to the Slay Your Day Show. I'm your host, Avi V, and today we're going to talk about how to succeed as an artist online with Craig Alexander. So, Craig Alexander is an award winning photographer who photographs cityscapes and skylines with a modern camera, but primarily uses vintage film lenses, which capture fine details even at great distances. That's awesome. So, like any other artist, Craig wanted to figure out a way to sell his art, and he didn't want to rely on his 9 to 5 job to support himself. And he wanted to work on his art full time. After spending years learning digital marketing and sales and a lot of trial and error, he finally figured out a foolproof way of selling art online that works. Using his method, he sold his art to thousands of people, leveraging the power of digital marketing. He also now wants to help other artists achieve success. And so he started the Craig Alexander Academy that teaches other artists a proven method to successfully sell their art. Please welcome Craig. That's awesome, man.
Very
So
kind intro. Thank you.
that's pretty cool, man. So tell us like how you got into photography and like how
Sure.
did you get started?
Sure. I was born in Florida in the United States. I moved to Europe when I was 7 years old. I lived in the south of France for a year. I learned learned French and everything. When I was 9 years old, I moved to England. I went to boarding school for some years, and I got acquainted with over 100 cultures. I went to an international boarding school, and there was people from Switzerland, Hong Kong, Zambia, Uganda, Bolivia, Malaysia, South Korea, just everywhere. And I grew a huge appreciation of the world and different people. And I uh, I visited 5 continents all over the world. And I just had a fascination of different cultures and different places and unique perspectives. When I was 16, I graduated high school. I moved back to the United States and became an interior designer, and I traveled all over the U.S. in a very unique kind of position, helping thousands of families put their homes together. And I had a lot of high end clients, and I had one of the biggest complaints or requests I used to get in interior design was people couldn't find really good pictures of their hometown or their favorite place in the world. And there was like stock photos that they could print, I guess, but they're very unoriginal and kind of boring. And I would always get this. If people were from Chicago, they're like, "Hey, do you have a really good picture of Chicago?" And I could only find the cheesy, stock art online. And because we were traveling all the time, and I was already a photographer, I was a passionate, hobbyist photographer. I was like, well, what if I went out and took it for you based on your exact specifications? They're like, yeah, let's give it a shot. So I started doing that. And a couple of weeks later, I sold my first 3 pictures in one day to total strangers that I had just met, made a couple $100. It blew my mind, changed my life forever. And ever since then, I've become obsessed. I've traveled to over 40 different cities and countries all over the world, photographing the iconic landmarks of each spot that I go to, and then surveying hundreds of people about what they like best about that place, and then going to photograph that using old lenses from the 1970s, old techniques from the 1930s. And that was in 2013, and the whole kind of career erupted from there.
Wow, that's really fascinating. How do you actually use those vintage lenses?
Yeah, I'll show you right here. So this is a modern camera,
Uh-huh.
and it's a modern Sony. It's called an A7R Mark III. It's
Oh,
nice and
yeah.
advanced. And then you detach this from here. This is like a little adapter, and this was made in 1971. So it's like a film lens.
Wow.
It's not, you have to do all the calculations by hand. It's not digitally connected to the camera.
No
So
way.
it's a lot more fun. I love using them. You get a very unique quality shooting with film lenses, and just kind of makes it stand apart.
That's super cool. And how did you learn all of this?
I'm a huge nerd. I love reading. So I remember I'd been a hobbyist for years, and I had this chance to go photograph. I was in Chicago at the time, actually, and this person said, "Yeah, I'd love you to photograph the skyline," but he showed me some pictures on his phone of like the kind of thing he was like, and I knew I didn't know how to do that. I was like, okay, so I worked 7 days a week back then. months and months and months on end, and I never had any breaks. But I remember it was my birthday. I think it was my 20th birthday. And it was an old rainy day in Chicago, cold in November, and I went to Barnes and Nobles and I got a book called Digital Photography for Dummies, and I read it 2 times through. I read everything. I looked up all my words in the dictionary. That's important. And then when I got to the end of the book, it was quite complicated. It had lots and lots of concepts in it. Got to the end of it, went back to the beginning, read it through a second time, and other than that, I looked at YouTube videos and read a lot of blogs. Probably read over 1,000 blogs over a couple months, and I just practiced, and that was it. I never did a paid course, never went to school for it. I just kind of self-taught.
That's intense. And how long did it take you to be at a level where you could be paid for your art?
Maybe 5-6 months from when I bought that book, and then I did a lot of experimentation, and then 5-6 months later, I was working 90-hour weeks in between. So in terms of time, maybe 20-30 hours, but in terms of time through the calendar, maybe 4 or 5 months, something like that.
20-30 hours in total over 5 to 6 months.
Yeah, I'd say something like that.
Wow, you're like a genius, man. And that's even possible? I didn't know, because photography is very technical as a field. So what's the secret of learning something so technical really fast?
For me, I mean, that's a good question, and I don't think I'm a genius. My whole life I felt like I was a photographer, so I had the being part of being a photographer. I remember when I was 17, I was with a group of people, and this new person that had just come into this group, he was a photographer, and I remember he had this really nice camera that he got for Christmas or something, and I remember kind of feeling jealous. I was like, oh man, I'm a photographer, and then I thought I've got the being of a photographer, but I'm not out there doing photography, or I don't have a camera. I should probably do that if I want to be a photographer. And prior to that, again, I'm a huge nerd. I finished school a couple of years early, and there's a lot of stretch material in things like physics and math and stuff. So while waiting to graduate, I studied all about optics and light and how optics work. So I read a lot of theory about photography. And I had a friend who was also a photographer, and we used to film music festivals together. He used to run around with a video camera. We'd film festivals, and I'd stay up all night long editing. And then the next morning, I'd take it to the committee, and then we would show the film from the day before, and it was all fresh, and people loved that. So I had experience in film. Very simple, point and shoot cameras, nothing super fancy. I later upgraded to what was called camcorders back there with the flip screen. So I knew a lot of the theory, but just studying, finding something you're really passionate about, studying, looking up every word you can't define in the dictionary is really important. It gives you, a much broader grasp of the subject. And then actually doing it, study a little bit, do it, study, do it, much better than just kind of studying about it.
Nice. Okay. I'm also super keen into photography, but every time I somehow don't manage to do it.
Okay. You need a reason to do that. If you have a reason that you can set your mind on why it matters in the first place, I think that'll accelerate. Find your why on that,
Do you have a course that you teach people on photography?
I don't teach people how to do photography. I have a very close friend and business partner. His name is Serge Romelli. Maybe we can put him in the show notes, but he has some incredible tutorials on YouTube. If you've ever wanted to learn landscape photography, he has hundreds of free videos on YouTube. He also has some amazing, inexpensive paid courses. So definitely check out Serge Romelli. I can give you the link to put in the show notes later. But
I've seen his YouTube channel. It's amazing.
Okay, yeah, he's amazing. Such a great guy too. But he teaches people how to do photography, and then my true passion is to help. Before I die, I'm 29 years old. No intention on dying anytime soon. But before I die, I want to help 1 million artists quit their day job and be able to do art full time.
That's super cool, man. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because the show's called Slay Your Day, and it's all about the hustle and the grind and how to be more productive and reach your goals. Yeah. And so what is this course, and how did you start it, and what does it do?
Yeah, so from a very early age, I noticed a very kind of missing element in art education today. in that you can go to art school for 4 years and learn to be a terrific artist. You can be a sculptor, photographer, painter. You know all the history of art. All the techniques and all the names and how to sound really pretentious when you talk about art and all educated and everything. But it comes to like doing art or doing it for a living, and one in 1,000 might get some cool internship in London or New York or something, but 999 out of 100, 999 out of 1,000, excuse me, of people who kind of graduate art school don't end up working in the arts, and I think that's a crime. I think it's a tragedy. Um, when you graduate dental school, there's a clear career path to be a dentist.
Yeah.
Where with art school, it's kind of like a bad joke of like, oh, you're an artist. What coffee shop do you work at? And I used to hate those jokes. I'll never forget when I was in boarding school, there was this beautiful girl from Spain who used to sit next to me, and she was so much more talented than I was. I wasn't a great drawer or like a sketch artist. Um, I loved art. I tried to like do the sketching, and I read books to try to do it. I wasn't that good at it. She could just take a pencil and her imagination and just like draw like African animals, like tigers and lions and elephants, and it was just like picture perfect photographic detail. And she ended up working in a coffee shop, and that was such a almost betrayal to the subject. And I remember wanting many years ago, like, I wish artists could be taught how to sell their art and how to be able to do their art for a living. So I was in a very unique circumstance. I had lots of customers coming by me every day who needed a particular kind of photography that I happened to be passionate about because I traveled the world and I love different cultures. So I sold my first picture in April of 2013. I was in Annapolis, Maryland, which is a suburb right outside of Washington, D.C. Beautiful area. I sold, I think, 3 pieces of art in one day. They were like paper prints, something really simple. I sold a couple, $100, $150 of stuff, and changed my life. I was like, wow, that was so easy. I told them my story. I got them excited. They were not very expensive. I think I charged them $60 for like an 8-inch by 10-inch and a frame, and I paid like $6 or $7 for it. So I 10x'd my profit, and I was like, this is so easy. I love it. And I got really cocky. And 4 or 5 months later, I left my job. No, 4 months later, I left my job thinking I'm going to go out and do it full time. I'd sold maybe 200 or 300 pieces at that time. And I spent the next 5 years totally struggling. So I went from the 6-figure job. I was crushing it as like a 20-year-old. I was, making over $100,000 a year, more than anyone in my family. And I left this job in order to pursue art, and I totally fell flat on my face. I failed at like 20, 25 art shows and just struggled through the next 5, 6 years. I'd have a little bit of success and I'd fail, a little bit more success. I remember I remember Christmas 2015, I had organized this private show on this like high foot traffic street corner, and I told people for a week, like, hey, I'm gonna have this huge show, you should come out, I'm gonna make all this money, I'm gonna I spent my last reserves in my bank account purchasing all this equipment and renting the spot and lots of inventory, and I had it all put together. I went out at like 7 in the morning in the hot sun in Florida, got all sunburnt. I have very light skin, so I get sunburnt easy. All day, and I didn't sell a single piece. It was so embarrassing. I talked to tons of people, nothing sold. I didn't have the right stuff for that market at the time. And it was so embarrassing. I was so frustrated, and I almost threw it in right there. I almost like took it home. I almost like wanted to just throw it in the trash and give up. But there were 10, 20 other times where like I thought I was doing well, and then the next day it rains and the whole thing goes to crap, and I don't make profit. So it was a huge struggle. I sold in lots of different parts of the country. Some were like little tiny successes followed by failure, and some were just failure all the way. It wasn't until like 2018 that I had my first solo show that lasted 10 weeks before I went bankrupt again. I was like $80,000 in debt at this point as a 26-year-old, and so many failed ventures, and I was hardworking too. I was really good in sales. I was, a professional. I'd work 80, 90 hours a week. I had low cost of living. I didn't have my own apartment. I drove an old motorcycle. So it's like I didn't have high cost of living, and yet I couldn't make this darn thing go. And so after that 10 week one man show that failed, well, I mean, I made about total sales. I made about $8,000-9,000 a month for 10 weeks. So about around $2,000 a week gross. I didn't take almost any of that home.
You put the show yourself, like that was your own.
Yeah,
show.
it was a one-man show. I set up everything myself, and it was just about going, and then the season changed, and all the tourists left, and it fell apart. And I tasted enough success from that to know that there was something here. I just made $2,000 a week for 10 weeks, and yet I still didn't make it work. But there's something here. So I actually moved to Canada at that point, and I lived almost a year in Canada, traveling all over Canada, working in a sales job, getting more experience, networking, and paying back the debt that I had incurred over that 10-week period. It took the whole year. I remember I launched March 17th, 2018, went out of business at the end of May 2018. So June 1st, I flew to Lethbridge, Alberta, which is a small town just north of Montana in the middle of nowhere in Canada, and started the sales job and did that for about 7 or 8 months anyway, we traveled all over Canada from Vancouver to Toronto, Manitoba, we were Alberta, British Columbia. It was actually a lot of fun. Quebec, Montreal. But I paid everything back. I started selling online. After struggling for 6 years, I finally brought it online. Over Thanksgiving and Christmas of 2018, I sold a couple $1,000s online, which really got me excited. A dear friend of mine gave me a small loan of $5,000 to start my next one in the one location that I had done the best many, many years ago, which was Nashville, Tennessee. If you look in the background, there's Nashville. It's a very small town, booming, expanding. There's lots of really strong economy. And it was like the last ditch. Effort. I was 26 at that point. I was emotionally exhausted from this. I was like, I'm going to go to Nashville. That $5,000 loan ended up becoming like $7,500. I packed up a huge moving truck, 30 feet long, packed everything in there, loaded my motorcycle up the ramp, and I drove 14 hours from Florida to Nashville. I was based in Florida at the time after having come back from Canada. And I started up. I was like, this is the last chance. I'm giving it all I've got. I'm risking everything, as I've been doing for the last 6 years. I've got a really good feeling about this. But if this doesn't work, I'm gonna sell solar power or something and give up my art dreams forever. I'm completely giving this up. It's too hard to be an artist. It's impossible. The odds are against me. No one makes it anyway. Artists, being an artist is not a viable career. And the first day I got there, I set everything up all night because you can't set up during the daytime because it's in a commercial area. So I set up yourself. Yeah, so I drove 14 hours, slept in the truck for 4 hours, got there, signed all the papers, took a quick nap, worked from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. or 3 a.m., drove 45 minutes to the person's house that I was staying at to sleep on the couch, and his truck was in the driveway, I remember. And I had this huge 30-foot moving truck, right? And I didn't want to park in front of him and block it. So I parked into the grass. Terrible mistake if you have a huge truck and it had just rained. So I park in the grass, fall asleep for 3 hours, 4 hours, wake up, put my clothes on for my first day, go out in the truck, try to reverse it, and it's stuck in the mud, downhill, and it weighs 10 tons. I'm like, no, I need this truck, all my supplies. I'm going to be late for my first show. And the guy was really nice. He had a small pickup truck, and he tried to put some ropes around it and pull it out of the mud, but then he was slipping, and oh my God. So I ended up being an hour and a half late. He ended up giving me a ride across town, packing up just the essentials. I worked all day, 12 hours, trying to sell in this art show, and I made $120. I was like, no, what have I done? I'm an idiot. It was a Thursday. It was Valentine's Day 2019. I was like, I've totally screwed up. What have I done? I've just wasted a year of income in terms of like taking out this loan. It's going to take another year to pay back, another year of my life wasted. But I'm like, you know what? I've got a signed lease for 2 months. Let me just see what I can do. Next day, lady came in, said, "Oh, I love your London photograph. How much is it?" I was like, "It's $250. She's like, "Well, that's a little bit too much." I'm like, "Wait, I have a story behind it." And I told her this crazy story behind how it was London and it was raining and I had my little brother and we're out till 3 a.m. It was just this dramatic story. She's like, "Oh my God, you know what? Because you told such a great story, I'm gonna go ahead and get it." She gives me her credit card, and I remember there was nothing in my bank account at the time. I was like minus $50. I didn't know how I was gonna get lunch that day. And she hands me this like gold American Express card, and I'm holding it. I'm like, "This is lunch, dinner, breakfast, and lunch tomorrow." And I'm thinking in my head, like, as she handed this to me, I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna pay for gas. I'll be able to like pay to get a company to pull the truck out of the mud. This is so great." So I'm like, "Thank you so much." We swipe the card. I get a picture with her, and I remember posting it on Facebook. I was like, "Hey, I made my first big sale." And as I'm posting that on Facebook, some people have been watching her buy and hold this picture that I photographed. And they came over. They're like, "Hey, is that picture of Ireland? Is that for sale?" I'm like, "Yeah, wait, I've got the story." And I told her, I told I told them the story about how I got this crazy picture off the side of a cliff at 4 a.m. in Ireland, that I missed a flight from London to Ireland, and I had to drive all around the entire island of Ireland, and I got there super late, and it was the one day that it wasn't raining in the 7 days, and they're like, "All right, we'll take it. How much is it?" I'm like, "It's $250. They're like, "All right, great." So I autographed it for them, and I was on a roll. I ended up the day at like $800. I was like, wow. There's a little function on my credit card processor where I could send it directly to the bank. And I remember opening up my bank account, and it had been minus 50 that morning, and I was exhausted. I hadn't slept well in 3 days. The truck got stuck in the mud. I was in this grumpy mood, and I just remember looking at it. There was $750 in cash that I didn't, that I could actually spend, that I could actually do something with, that I didn't owe to anyone. I was like, "Oh my God, this is life changing." Next day was Saturday. I did like $1,300. Next day was Sunday. I did another $700-800. I was like, "All right, I just did over $3,000 in 3-4 days. This works." And that was the beginning of my career. Did $160,000 in sales that first 10.5 months. I opened three locations. I did $305,000 the second year, and then 2021 I just passed the $700,000 mark. And so for a total of like 1.1 million, give or take, with about $250,000 of that or more online. And then I started an academy online to teach other people how to do it online. So I'd done it offline. I'd pioneered and learned all the lessons offline, and then I transitioned that to online to teach people what I'm doing.
Wow, that's such an intense story, man. Okay, so but this is like, so the Nashville thing really hit off, and then you opened.
Nashville exploded, yeah.
And then how much did you sell online from that?
So the first year, okay, so that was when I started in Nashville. That was like February 2019, right? So the last 2 months of 2018 was I had just launched online. I had never sold online before. I think I sold like $2,100, so $2,100 in the last 2 months. 2019 as a whole, I think I did like 5,000 on Etsy and 5,000 on Amazon. So for a total of like 10,000. And then I think I doubled that in 2020. I think I did a total of like, oh no, I got a funnel going with a Facebook ad. So I probably did a total between all the different channels, because I had Shopify, eBay, Etsy, Amazon, funnels, Facebook ads. I think I did a total of like maybe $30,000 in 2020, and then 2021 it exploded, and I did over $200,000 online alone in 2021. So that totally changed my life. I got to buy the red Tesla. I got to get out of debt. I got to move home. I got to have 10 employees under me. I got to learn how to train a whole team, how to write, training manuals, how to manage a team. And then I eventually exited that business. I sold 90% of my share to my best friend and business partner. Now I make 10% passive royalties from any time my art sells. Plus, I sell online a ton. And then I teach, I coach, and then I'm also building software that helps artists sell their own art online profitably with minimal, effort.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
thank you.
It's like an American dream, and but even better for artists.
Yeah, it's a very underrepresented group of people. I think artists are so valuable to society, far more value than they're actually given credit for. Um, there's this horrible word in the English language of like starving artist, and I wanted to change the narrative around independent artists from starving artists to thriving artists. So I actually started a podcast called Starving Artist to Thriving Artist: How to Profitably Sell Your Art Online. How to gain financial freedom by selling art online.
That's amazing. Yeah, I got a lot of friends. I'm an artist too, and this is
That's so
like the
cool.
main problem. Yeah, I mean, I'm an actor. I did like 97 theater productions, but
Wow.
again, theater doesn't pay, right? So you got to have that side hustle.
Yeah.
So wow, okay. So can you, if it's okay with you, like, would you like walk like, because I'm sure a lot of artists are going to be watching this,
Yeah.
because I have a ton of friends who definitely going to be watching this, because I help. Is it firstly my question is, will it work online only, or does it have to be online and offline, specifically for photography and like art, like
Well, you said
painting?
something really interesting there just like a minute ago, and I don't even know if you meant to say it. And I just kind of want to, I'll answer your question 100%, but I actually want to take you back a little bit. You said you've done 97 theater productions. First of all, I've done a ton of theater growing up. Love it. Super awesome. Fellow,
Thanks.
fellow, uh, fellow theater nerds. I love it. Um, and you said there's no money in theater, and that's completely untrue.
For
Uh,
India.
fair enough, but the show they made a movie with Taylor Swift a couple years ago that didn't do so too well, but it's a musical called Cats. Have you heard of it?
Mm, yeah.
Okay, so Cats was written by a British playwright. It was Andrew Lloyd Webber, and he wrote it a long time ago, and it's made over $1.1 billion.
What?
Yeah, yeah, it's a very successful theater. I'm sure you've heard of shows like Wicked, like
Yeah.
Jersey Boys, like Rent, like The
I mean,
Lion.
Broadway, anything on
Yeah,
Broadway.
Broadway, and these are huge, huge industries that make billions and billions of dollars.
Really, huh?
Yeah, and then so many people transition from the stage to the screen.
Yeah.
There's a ton of money in it, but only to the people who truly figure out how to market it. Now,
Yeah.
many artists ask me like, what is marketing? I'm like, all marketing is finding people who have a desire for something and then putting that exact desire in front of them in a way that's easy to say yes to, affordable, makes them excited or happy to say yes to it, and creating an automated system around them being able to say yes in mass. That's all marketing is. It's finding what's needed and wanted, placing it in front of them, and then making it really, really easy for them to say yes, and then building an automated system to be able to shovel tens, hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands of people into this machine to get them to keep saying yes constantly. That's all marketing is. And the Spider-Man movie that just came out 3-4 months ago, it's made $1.9 billion worldwide in like 4 months. So people say, oh, there's no money in the arts. No, there's no money in the arts for those who choose not to learn marketing. And unfortunately, the way the world works is those who know how to market make the money, and those who just know how to do the art are massively underpaid and work for the people who know how to market. And it's a horrible reality. I wish it wasn't that way, but it's like in the jungle, you eat what you hunt, you eat what you kill. And it's kind of like that anywhere in life, but for some reason nobody's teaching marketing to artists, and it's a crime. Like what? It's the number one skill they need. So I just finished writing a book. It's called How to Sell Your Own Art Online Successfully in 7 Days on Etsy. It's 50
Damn,
pages
that's
long.
awesome.
It's fully illustrated. Um, I sell it for anywhere from $20 to $40. But anyone listening to this, I can give you a free digital version of it. I can give you the link afterwards, so you can literally download it. And I basically teach chapters. I call it chapter 0, right? Before we even get into the strategies and the tactics of how to sell art online. Actually, do you have a moment? Can I read you an excerpt from this?
For sure.
It'll
I
take
would
us.
love
I think it'll be totally super worth it.
Oh, you have it in front of you.
Yeah, it's like as an ebook. We're gonna be publishing it and written as well. But here, I'm gonna read something for you. Give me 1 second, please. I did not have this ready, but I can have it ready in just 1 second.
That's fine. That's so amazing, man. And it's true for actors too. I can totally see that was like a false idea that I had in my mind, and you totally blew it away. Because even as an actor, to get the higher paying jobs in theater or a film, you got to market yourself and brand yourself, and the PR, the person who does that does succeed actually. Obviously,
100%.
your product, your work has to be great too.
Of course, that's a given. But you have to market and sell yourself to people who know how to market and sell the production, the art.
That's right.
If you can learn to go directly to the audience and avoid the middleman, the gatekeeper, the traditional studio executives, the casting directors, if you can figure out how to go straight to the audience, you can bypass and keep all the profit. So it's a very lucrative field.
Yeah.
Everybody enjoys art. Like think about 2020 and the pandemic. What were people doing when they're stuck at home? They were watching Netflix. They were on social media. All of that is the creation of art. They were consuming art when everything was going wrong. What was their fallback? Consume art. I found that amazing. There's no lack of consumption of art, but the distribution and marketing of art is in a very small minority of people. And if we democratize that, or if we brought the technology of how to sell art to the masses, we could completely change the world. So
that is amazing. Yeah. All right. I have a follow-up question, but you go ahead first. Read that excerpt from your book. What's it called again?
So it's here. I'll get you the official title: How to Make Your First Landscape Photography. How to Make Your First Landscape Photography Sale on Etsy in 7 days. That's the name of the book.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay.
And it's 6 chapters. It's all like it's. I don't know if you can see it there, but it's all illustrated. There's lots of pictures and stuff, and diagrams and screenshots, and it's very tactical. It's not just theoretical BS. It's very much nitty gritty of exactly what buttons you click, how to do it. But here, let me get you started here. This is chapter 0. This is, if I omitted this chapter, the whole book would be useless, because the book would be useless because without this mindset shift, nothing works. So here, let me read this to you. Introduction. The most fundamental lesson before the tactics. How to make your first landscape photography sale online, even if you've never sold before. You don't need to learn how to be an artist. You already are an artist, and a darned good one if I had to take a guess. You wouldn't be reading this book if you weren't. You need to learn how to be an art marketer. Totally different hats, completely different skill sets and mindsets. You're here today reading this because you're willing to learn, willing to put in the work, to unlock a brand new field that's probably never been available to you. Why? Because no one is teaching it. We're going to change that. The first rule to becoming an art marketer is you have to learn how to take off the artist hat and put on the art marketer hat. You have to shift from only creating art that fulfills you to working backwards and reverse engineering what the customer actually wants to buy and is willing to pay for. What does this actually mean in the real world? Let me explain. When I was in my late teens, early 20s, I worked professionally in interior design, traveling all over the United States, helping thousands of families put their homes together. I had a great mentor who showed me the ropes, how to talk to clients, how to sell. I ignored most of his advice. I was young, I was a little overconfident from some early success. I'll never forget a beautiful spring day in April 2013. I was in Annapolis, Maryland, a beautiful seaside town about 45 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. A customer walked in, had just purchased a new house. His home was completely unfurnished, and he was confused on his next step. He asked me my opinion, and I gave it to him. I told him all about what I thought he should do, Colors, styles, size, placement, etc., all based on a solid base of years of experience and training. He thanked me, told me he'll think about it, and he left. I never saw him again. My mentor pulled me aside and asked, "Why did you do that?" I was puzzled. He asked for my opinion, and I gave it to him. What else was I supposed to do? My mentor smiled, looked at me, and then asked, "Are you going to be living in his home?" No. I was really confused now. Oh, okay. Did you ask him about his taste? No. Fine. Did you ask him if he had anything already picked out in his mind that he'd perhaps seen in another store, in a magazine, in a friend's home? Also no. Okay, so you just blurted out your opinion, totally unaligned with his desires, and expected him to buy? I guess, yeah. What should I have done? How about finding out what he wanted, what his interests were, in terms of style, color, size, etc.? How about being curious and inquisitive enough to look into his mind and see what he truly desired, and then showing that to him? Wow, never crossed my mind. And that's why you'll never see him again. So that was a rude awakening. But it changed my entire career on the spot, just like that. I realized that when selling, the customer's desire comes first. If the customer doesn't see what they won't buy. It's one of those oversimplistic things that sounds stupid to voice out loud because it's so basic. But behind every piece of over 10,000 pieces of art I've sold in the past 3 years alone has had that at its core. Everything is based first on what the customer wants. You see, when you start off as a landscape photographer, you photograph what you like. All your choices from composition, color, contrast, location are determined by your personal taste. You're essentially producing art and consuming it as well. The end goal is your own personal satisfaction. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I was exactly like this when I started. And every artist I've ever spoken to in depth started like this. You can absolutely continue creating art to please your palate. I still do this to this day, 9 years later. But when your goal is to sell art, you have to learn how to take off the artist hat and put on the art marketer hat. It's essentially two separate activities. I'm almost done, by the way. It's essentially two separate activities. One is satisfying yourself in your own taste. The other is catering to the preferences of the paying customer, who's usually a complete stranger. I'll get to the tactical breakdown of exactly how to do this in the next chapter. But note, you may have to completely start over with your artist portfolio. I successfully coach hundreds of students a month on how to sell their art online. And the first question they usually ask me is, I have 1,000 great photos. How can I sell them? A better question, one that will make you far more sales with much less frustration, is, what kind of landscape photography are people already buying? What kind of landscape photography are thousands of strangers on the internet already buying regularly? How are masses of total strangers that I've never met before voting with their wallets? That's the question you want to ask. Once you discover the dozens of hot, best-selling, frequently bought subject matter and styles that are out there, then you can align yourself with that. And you can do it in your own taste, your own style, photographing these subject matter in such a way that is uniquely yours artistically. In my 9 years of selling my landscape photography and over 10,000 units and $1.1 million in total sales in the last 36 months, I've seen this pattern over and over and over again. When you try to sell what you like, the people don't usually buy. When you sell them what they like, they tend to buy. The trick is to find evidence of repeatability. 1 or 2 sales of some random subject matter does not make a pattern. When you start finding subject matter that has sold tens of thousands of times, that makes a pattern. In the next chapter, I'll show you exactly how to hop on this trend in a way that is authentic to you. You remain a true artist without selling out, and you make a bunch of money. Too good to be true? Keep reading. I think you'll enjoy the next chapter.
Wow, that was amazing, man. That was really, really insightful. And that was the question that I had in my mind, and you totally answered that. Because I helped, before I told you, a couple of artists came to me to market their art online. And basically, I tried to explain it to them, but they thought that if they got a funnel up, like a landing page and like ads going, or like a Shopify store going, they would automatically start making sales. And it just didn't happen. And here you just said, You got to actually change your portfolio.
Yep. Or at the very least, select super sharply only those things that people are already buying in mass in the world.
Right.
Let me give you a great example of that. You turn on the radio and there is a song on. There is an 80% chance that's a love song. Why? Because love songs sell. You turn on the TV or Netflix or whatever, chances are there are really attractive people between the age of like 17 and 35. Why? Because really attractive people between 17 and 35 on screen sell really well. When you go into like the store and you go to buy food, there's going to be all kinds of food, but what's right in the front? It's chocolates, it's fruit, it's bread, it's ice cream, it's gum, it's stuff that people grab very quick. Why? Because that stuff sells. The entire commercial world is based around giving people what they want. And for some reason, this message has never been taught to artists. It's like, hey, give the people what they want in your own unique style, and you'll make a crap ton of money. That is the formula.
Yeah, but a lot of artists are like, they're very individualistic. They're like,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to copy a trend. I want to create.
They're wearing the artist hat and not the art marketer hat. So they'll make fantastic art, and that has merit in itself. But if you want to become an art marketer, you need to pause that, switch hats, art marketer. How can I bring my unique talents and my unique vision to the world in a way that they'll want to buy, give me money, so that I can pay my bills to be able to continue to make amazing art? And here's the thing. If you're making money doing your art, you're going to make a lot more art. And therefore, you're going to get a lot better at making art. And you're going to make a lot more people happy. You're going to inspire a lot more people. And you're ultimately going to be far more creative if you get to do this thing as a freaking living rather than just something you do 2 hours a month on a Sunday night when you're tired of your job and you're not looking forward to Monday. So you like escape into your basement and paint a painting or escape out and take a few photos to get away from the world. If you're doing this for a living, I guarantee you'll be more of an artist, more creative, more intense and dedicated, and you will get more of your art and your message out than just doing it for you.
That's huge. That's like that itself. That one chapter is like life changing. Literally is. Because yeah, a very close friend of mine. He made this really beautiful photograph, a print, and it had won like some award locally, but it was like a horse, right? And we tried to sell it, but people weren't buying it, even though a lot of people were going to the website and we optimized the website. But maybe it was just like they were the wrong people, or it was just like that's not what they wanted. Or what was the reason, you think?
Well, okay, so you turn on the radio, 80% of the time it'll be a love song. Why? Because love songs sell and people, have a strong fascination with love. Correctly so. It's a great topic. How many songs do you hear about refrigerators? Not a lot, right? So you could have the most artistic song sung about a refrigerator with beautiful poetic lyrics. You could get the best musical producers on earth to produce the song about mixing, mastering in $100,000 studio. You could get the opinions of a bunch of people that you trust who tell you it needs a little bit more bass, a little bit more guitar. At the end of the day, you didn't ask thousands of people if they wanted to listen to a song about a refrigerator. Chances are they don't want to hear a song about a refrigerator. They want to hear a love song. They want to hear a song about traveling the world. They want to hear a song about pursuing your dreams, about finding that perfect man or woman, leaving school and, doing, pursuing that thing that you always wanted to pursue, surfing songs about cars, songs about, growing up, songs about, relatives or younger siblings that you love or the girl or guy that got away, things that like people give a shit about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the same thing applies to art. Now, it's kind of hard to go out on the street and ask tens of thousands of people what they want. I've done it, by the way. Like in my gallery, people come in and I ask hundreds and hundreds of people what they wanted to buy. But way faster than that is finding evidence of what's already sold. So imagine this. Imagine if you could go to this website called eBay. And on eBay, imagine if you could go to completed auctions where people had already bought. And then imagine on this auction site, eBay, you could filter for subject matter like photography. And then imagine if on there you could see everything that is sold in the last year, ranked by how much it has sold, in what velocity, for how much money, average sizes, average prices. Imagine if you could get all of this data of what tens of thousands of strangers on the internet all over the world are voting with their dollars. And the good news is all that data is out there and it's all free. And in chapter 1, I break down exactly how to do that methodically with screenshots, what buttons to push, and everything like that. So it's being illustrated right now. That was a rough version. Give me a couple days. By the time this episode comes out, there will be a free download link, and you can check it out if you want.
Thank you so much for that. That's huge, man. That's amazing.
My
All right,
pleasure.
so I mean, you've been there, really struggled, and you've kept going. So, what advice would you?
It's
what
been
would-
horrible. I wouldn't blame it on my worst enemy. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know how to market. I knew how to sell, but I didn't know how to market. By the way, the difference in sales and marketing, for anyone who's never looked up those two words, if you look up marketing, it says the process of selling and getting attention. Okay, so very simply, taking the confusion out of it, marketing is getting attention from a large group of people and get them interested in buying your stuff. Sales is taking interested people and converting that into dollars. So salespeople usually work on a phone or work face-to-face, where they have hot, interested leads walking in. You talk, and at the end of this transaction, or at the end of this conversation, you have their money in your hand and they have something of value that they're happy with, right? So sales is the last part. So very often people ask, oh, how do I sell my work? And they're not asking, how do I find out what the hell sells? How do I find who to sell it to? How do I find what channel to sell that on? And here's the thing. There's something called a product market match, which is you find something that people really, really want. And then you find the people that really, really want that. And then you find the channel. Is it online? Is it offline? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook? Is it ads? Is it email marketing? What channel can they easily buy that on with the least amount of friction, with the most amount of trust and confidence? And how can you do it tens, hundreds, and thousands of times? And that's what I teach. I do it all day. I literally have a coaching day today. I'm going to be coaching for 7 hours in like an hour and a half. I'm coaching for 7 hours, teaching hundreds of people around the world, hundreds of amazing, talented artists that I love so much, how to put all these, all of these principles into action. So I have this like 8-hour online course, which walks you through step by step of exactly how to sell. And then there's coaching every Wednesday of exactly if you're struggling or you need a lift of like, I've tried everything, nothing works. What do I do? All right, I've been in your shoes. Here's what to do. And I coach, hundreds of people every week. I have over 400 people now in paid programs that they're learning to sell. So it's to sell their own work. And I've had amazing results. I'll just read you just a couple of excerpts from literally my students who have most of them have never sold their art online ever. There's a few exceptions, but probably 95% of maybe 90% of the people who sign up have never sold their art online. And these are just screenshots that I've taken. I posted on my Facebook a couple days ago, but I'll just read it out to you. So this is a lady called Nicole Greer. She said, only a week into beginning my shop on Etsy, I've already made my first sale. Very exciting. Next one is, I have 324 sales on Fine Art America since 2015, and around 150 of them I have gotten since joining your course last July. In November last year, I got 95 sales from Christmas orders and 5 sales on Etsy. So in the last 7 years, she'd made 324 sales, and about half of those were in the last 9 months alone.
Wow.
So she has definitely picked up. She's already very talented doing her thing, but it's kind of exploded since.
So then I have a really important question for you.
Yeah.
So do you think having your own website or your funnel is better, or Etsy or Fine Art America or eBay is better?
So good question. So what Etsy, Amazon, eBay, Fine Art, what those are, they're called third-party platforms. Third party here means a third person or a third group is selling your art for you or is bringing the customers to you for you to sell. So essentially, they're doing most of the marketing, and you're just doing some of the selling. Because it's online, it's all automated. So there's a step-by-step process that you can do where Etsy, Amazon, eBay, Fine Art America brings you the customer to your site, and then they go through your site, they read your stories, they look at your diagrams, and then they can decide to buy. So it is much easier to sell on Etsy than it is to sell on ClickFunnels to start with.
Yeah.
That said, once you have a winner, like I'll give you a story. See that picture right there?
Ghost Town.
Yeah, Ghost Town Broadway. It's a little bit dark here. I'm probably not doing it full justice, but I sold probably $500,000 of that one picture in the last 2 years. I took it about 2 years ago. So when you have a hot seller, you can ramp that up with your own website and ClickFunnels like nothing else I've ever seen in the world. So I would say having your own website or having ClickFunnels or a funnel, which is basically a micro website that sells one thing. That's all a funnel is, a micro website that sells one thing. Those are more powerful once you know what the hell you're doing. But to get started, I don't let anyone get into funnels or their own website until they've made 50 sales online. And what I do is I have a very advanced course on email marketing, integrations, text message marketing, influencer marketing, Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, ringless voicemail, where you can drop audio voicemails into people's voicemail for 10 cents a piece, all automated, and you can do it tens of thousands of people at a time. All these, postcard marketing, all these really powerful things. I don't let anyone near it until they've made 50 sales on Etsy or Amazon, something online. Because it's so hard.
Sorry, go on.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's so hard to sell with your own funnel if you don't know what works. Etsy makes it so much easier. And I've seen people struggle for years and years with their own websites because they're taking chapter 20 without doing chapter 1.
Exactly. You got to find out what sells first. And the best place to find that out is on Etsy or these third-party solutions, right?
Yeah, any third-party marketplace. A marketplace is a place where people go to buy. So imagine this, right? Let's rewind 1,000 years. Let's say you sell apples and you're out in the woods. Are you going to walk through the woods and see if you can find a person in a house, knock on their door and see if they want an apple? Or are you going to go on Saturday morning to the town square where thousands of people are out with their money with an intention to buy? There's a certain amount of trust because you're in the market, you're in public. There's a certain amount of accountability because if you rip them off, then they can go to the sheriff's office who will kick you out of the market. So you have an interest in being honest. Everything that they want is there. It's categorized into groups. You got the apple merchants over there, and then you got the horse merchants. You got the butchers over there, and you got the horseshoe makers over there. It's a marketplace. A marketplace is just a place where people go to spend money. So what's easier to sell that apple? Walking through the woods, trying to find a house, to knock on the door, hope they don't have an apple tree in their backyard, hope they don't have a shotgun or bow and arrow aimed at your head, hoping that they're going to trust some random guy knocking on their door and saying, "Hi, would you like an apple?" Compared to dressed nice, having a nice storefront, good reputation, a great story to tell about these apples, with hundreds of different varieties of apples laid out in your stall. They walk up with intention to buy, with money in their pocket. They've already pre-decided that they're going to buy. They're in a spending mood, and they just buy your freaking apple. Which one's going to be easier?
Obviously, right? The marketplace.
I would go to marketplaces until you've made 50 sales. And then as soon as you've done that, you scale up using Facebook ads, influencer marketing, email marketing, text message marketing on your own website or with a funnel once you've made 50 sales.
That's amazing, man. Thank you. I think this is eye-opening for me, and it's going to be for a lot of other people.
Well, thank you.
What if it doesn't, in the initial phase, you also had a lot of, failures or setbacks. What motivates you or what keeps you on purpose to keep going? What would you advise artists?
Oh, man. I'm very stubborn. I work 90-hour weeks at a job that I no longer loved in order to fuel my failures. So I'd work for months, work really, really hard, save up some money, go to an art show and fail. And I'd be I'd lick my wounds. So I had this economic engine going because I was willing to work very, very hard. And it was very, very rough on me. And the middle part of my 20s were not a very happy time. And I found that if you know what you're doing, you can cut out like 90 to 95% of that pain. So I had this guy, he's from Canada, Montreal, I think. His name's Eric Gordon, wonderful guy. He joined my group about 2 months ago. And he joined and he sold 8 pieces of art in his first 2 days. Now, that's not typical. It usually takes a little longer than that, but that's just an example of what you can do when you have everything lined up for you. You know how to do your diagrams and stories and what stories to tell and what sizes to do and what price and how to ship your art at a 500% profit margin without ever touching any goods. You just send an email to someone and they ship it for you. You don't have to drive to the post office. You don't have to worry about returns. You don't have to worry about like breakage and in route. Everything's done outsourced. The physical goods are outsourced. All that is done for you. It takes out like 95% of the pain. So you have to have your why, deep in your heart, why you want to do this. I knew that I would rather die than not pursue this dream of mine. And I was willing to stick it out for 6 years until I was finally successful. But you don't have to have that burning desire as much. Like, don't get me wrong. You're still going to go through hurdles. There's still a learning phase, but it's a lot easier when someone's mapped the road for you. Now I'm designing software. I just published a new update to the software. I have lots of users in it, and it makes your diagrams for you. It helps you tell your story. It interviews you. The software literally interviews you to tell your story and ask you like, okay, good. Then what happened? All right, use emotion here. How can you use the 5 senses here? All based on a very proven storytelling framework that George Lucas used to write Star Wars, that J.R.R. Tolkien used to write Lord of the Rings, but how you can do it in 1,200 characters for a post on Instagram or Etsy, that kind of thing. So you have to have a why, but also learn from somebody who's done it. I teach it all in the course. You don't have to get on the course immediately, but if you read the 50-page picture ebook that will be attached to here, at the end of the book, you'll have a chance to watch a 1 hour. I'll give you a link, but it's like a 1 hour masterclass, and I can take you through that more. So you can do the masterclass or the book or both, and they're both free. You can learn how to do this at a more in-depth level.
That's awesome. Thank you for giving that to our audience. And this is great, man. This is an amazing episode. Power pack. You're an amazing guy, man.
Thank you, dude. Thank you. Yeah. I heard a lot about you, by the way. We have quite a few friends in common. So you're moving to New York City. You're doing big things. At another point, I'd love to hear that. I have a podcast now. I'd love to interview you and reverse the roles and learn about your story. But what I have heard about you has been great, and really, really appreciate you having me on here.
Thank you. And if people want to reach out to you or like learn more about the course, what's the actual link to the website?
Yeah, I'm gonna link it down below. It's a long, complicated link, and they can check out basically a free web class that I give that walks you through everything that you need. And then they'll be able to watch the web class or download the ebook or both. And otherwise, I guess you can go to my Instagram at Craig Alexander Photography. So just search Craig Alexander Photography on Instagram. You'll see lots of pictures going back 6 years of. You can see the struggles and the trials on a week by week basis.
That's amazing. All right. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you guys for listening in. We're gonna tune out for today. I'll see you next week, same time, Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Indian time and 10 a.m. Eastern time. All right. Thank you, man. It was amazing talking to you.
All right. Appreciate you. Have a great one. Bye.
Bye.
The Slay Your Day Show with Avi Vatsa.